Hi everybody, I'm Bryce and this is Nick.
How you doing? We're going to show you how to take a 650 wave runner engine and put it into a 300 SX Kawasaki stand-up. Hey everyone, this is Nick from Nasty Nick's Motorsports. We're going to show you how to put a Yamaha 650 or 701 into a 300 SX body. Right now, the first thing we're going to do is we flipped it upside down. We took out the jet pump, and what we're going to use for this project is a 550 SX pump with a Pro Watercraft nozzle and a high-pitched impeller. This pretty much fits in here with very little mods. The bolting locations line up exactly. The wild card of this whole situation is going to be as we move forward and put the drive shaft in, we have to make sure the bearing housing is riding perfect. All right, we're back. So what we did is we went ahead and bolted the jet pump in, and then we added silicone here to keep the pump sealed to the hull. You want to go really liberal with the silicone, then wipe it down and make it as smooth as you really can. Take your time. You can put too little, too much. Just basically just put a good line in there, and you want to make sure there's a smooth transition from the hull into the jet pump. So what we're going to do now is, now this is bolted up and we have this all set up. We have the stock ride plate, which is right here. So a friend of ours told us that we had a X2 ride plate has the same bolt pattern. So what we did is we took a stock X2 plate, traced it out on there, and then we're basically going to turn that into an aftermarket plate for this, because while plates do exist for this 300 SX, they're nearly impossible to find. So we're going to go ahead and cut it along the blue lines here, and we're going to turn that into an aftermarket ride plate for this. And then we're going to go ahead and replace the open intake grate that it had in there, which is a Mariner, which is still better than stock, but still pretty terrible, with a Watercross of Texas grate that we were lucky enough to get. So what this is going to go ahead and do is it's going to just go ahead and shovel water into this thing as hard as it can. Because with this setup, it's going to be a lot of motor in a small package. We do want to put an extended ride plate in there only because we intend to actually drive this thing, as opposed to if we were doing freestyle or tricks that we'd go ahead and leave the shorter ride plate on there. So we'll go ahead and show you in the next video how we go from there to the next part. So we went ahead and put the stock ride plate on there, hooked up the water lines. We're going to try with the stock one first to see if we can get a little more playfulness out of it. A lot less of the nozzle is exposed than we're actually planning. So we're thinking that this might be, we're worried that's what's going to happen with the Pro Watercraft nozzle, even though they're warranted for life, is that when we come down repeatedly on that nozzle, we're worried about breaking it. So we're going to try it here for maybe a ride or two and see what happens, but we're probably going to end up putting that X2 on there. And then for the Watercross Texas grade, that thing was a little more challenging. It turns out we didn't have any of the right hardware for this, so I kind of had to fish through random bolts that had the right thread, pitch, and length, and put this on there. But I'll come back and put a nicer Allen on that one. But that lined up pretty good. What we have here is, it's a pretty aggressive scoop. Our only concern going into this part of the project is, with these aggressive scoop grates, they are known for tearing out these two inserts right here. So we're going to go ahead and try it. If something goes wrong, of course, we're going to wait, and kind of do a couple test runs, make sure this is, built in the best way we can. With any prototype, I'm sure we're going to have to come back in here and tweak with a little bit. And what happens a lot is if you break these two inserts, the only way to for sure fix that, which is the same scenario on an X2, is drilling up into the next cavity and nut and bolting it with larger studs. So we're going to wait to do the mats until we're 100% positive that this setup works. So on to the next part. All right, everybody, so what we did is we took the 550 SX shaft and we put it in and just kind of like dry fitting it, and you can see that this isn't going to work. This is way too long. It's not enough distance in between here and here for that engine. If we were going to use a 550 tank, you could probably get away with using this, because the 550 tank we could probably shove up into the nose. But I want to try to use the stock one here just because it looks a lot better and not have to worry about mounting the tank. So what we're going to do is we're going to dig into our pile of drive shafts over there next to the toolbox, and we're going to try to find one that's shorter. Found this shaft right here. This appears to be I believe a 750 SS shaft. It's a hair shorter than the 550 SX by a couple inches. From end to end, just so you can verify if you're trying to mimic our build here, this thing is just under 24 inches. It's going to be right around 23 3/4. That fits pretty good. That gives us 16 3/4 inch clearance in between the end of this coupler and the front of that gas tank, which should be good for our Yamaha setup over here. All right, buddy, we're back now. So we figured out that the 750 SS shaft is actually the exact length that we need. And then we found out that if we use one of these OEM 650, 750, 800, 1100, 900, the same housing, that housing actually fits perfectly within this tube right there. So what we're going to do now is we're actually going to shove this through, and we'll line it up to the prop in there, which is pretty easy, and then we just shove it right in. So once that's in, now we're going to go ahead and bolt these brackets down, and that'll hold the coupler in place. Now, most of what the structure we have going on here is held by these brackets. We made these ourselves. We used a 550 exhaust basically clamp that keeps it down. We had a whole bunch of these running around the shop. So to be honest, if we were Andrew Cecere or Sean Hart, you know, we'd just turn on a machine and make something cool, but we're not them, and well, let's be frank, neither are you. So we went ahead and made something custom here, so we're gonna go ahead and bolt that up and give it a shot. Like all prototypes, it'll either last forever or not at all. So there it is. Hey guys, so we're gonna go ahead and show it installed now. Shout out to my buddy Bryce who figured out these 550 exhaust clamps can actually be hammered flat and use this. So these are pretty thick. They're also stainless, so that's why we went this route. Now it's held in by the 4 factory mounts, and it's also nut and bolted right here. It's wedged inside the shaft, the PVC tube in there. The PVC tube in there, and then we went ahead and you know, reinforced it a little bit, so it's got some extra strength. Now you can see that housing has nowhere to go; it can't move at all, and it's nicely aligned. So we're actually calling this car a win there. By the way, that wasn't a dig at Andrew or Sean. They do fantastic work. It's just you know, we're not them, so we're gonna go ahead and try a little more of a budget operation here. Hey guys, so we're back. What we did here is we went ahead and bolted some brackets in, and we got the bearing housing in here nice and flush and then also aligned, and then we went ahead and mounted some Yamaha e-box brackets diagonally. That way the box can fit nicely here against the wall. We also went ahead and put in some metal plates, and we took some quick measurements and drilled and tapped it. You know, keen-eyed observers will notice that those holes are off back there. We're not really sure why, which is probably because we loosened the motor mounts when we put it in, but less than professional process. But as long as everything lines up and shims show that it's good, we're gonna go ahead and run this. So all right guys, so we went ahead and set the motor in here. You can see that it's lined up in the coupler, and those holes that were kind of wonky are not lined up, so we're just gonna go ahead and run that. All the other holes are lined up, so we're gonna go ahead and bolt it down, put the e-box and mount that, and then we're gonna have to run the exhaust system. All right guys, welcome back. So we got the motor in right now. Everything went in pretty good. We have everything's aligned, everything's down in there and tight. We went ahead and did some small things as we went around to it. We're gonna go ahead and replace these with some aluminum pickups because these plastic ones tend to crack. We also went ahead and put some straight bars in this thing, the kill switch, and a finger throttle, and we're gonna go ahead and set them up with some snafu grips just because they're cheaper than ODIs. And then we also have the e-box. The e-box is gonna go ahead and mount right here, and then we actually figured out that the stock Superjet coupler, which is this right here, or sorry, coupler cover, actually fits over that. Oh, dropped it right there. Pretty much perfect. So pretty golden. It's gonna look great. It's gonna go ahead and mount up just like that. We're gonna run the water lines, run the throttle cable, and we're gonna start tying this in. And then we got the arduous process of hooking up the exhaust. We're also working on where we're gonna put the battery tray, but we're thinking it's gonna be somewhere right here, so we'll go ahead and show you that in the next part. All right guys, it's been a tough couple days, but we finally got everything up in here. So you can see that we did a couple things all at once here. We kind of got into a groove. We added straight bars, some new grips. We put a pole limiting strap on here from Blosian, just because, you know, this thing's gonna be hitting some jumps and we don't want to tear the pole off. So going through what we did in here, we use, by the way, with our builds, we use whatever we have on hand at the shop, because we, in our mind, we're thinking you're gonna probably do the same at your house. So we had one of these aluminum pickups. I think this is originally on some kind of PJS race ski or something. Anyways, we had to shorten the tubes. We put that on there, so now we have aluminum pickups. We went ahead and shielded the wires, and you'll notice that we did the exhaust. The reason we didn't do the exhaust coming around the nose and back the other direction, even though that would have been a lot easier, is that whenever I build a ski for myself, I want everything to be serviceable within the first, you know, as soon as you open the hood. So we'll eventually add a resonator, but what we ended up doing is we took the stock hose and stepped it down to the stock size for the 300SX and passed it out. What that's going to do is, one, it is going to limit our power and kind of choke it, which is fine, because to be quite honest with you, we don't think that 550SX pump is going to be able to push this thing as hard as it needs to for this engine. And the other reason being that it's more watertight, it adds a little bit of back pressure, and for the most part, it sounds pretty good. We're going to give it its first fire, and we've done this a couple times now, so it should sound pretty good. We went ahead and mounted the e-box against the back rear firewall, and then we mounted the battery back here in the rear corner. And what we did is we actually took a stock battery box, and we'll do a thing for that real quick in a minute here, and cut it and put it back there. So we're going to go ahead and give it a fire, and then we're going to see how it sounds. So on the list of things we wish we would have done before we put the engine in was put in the battery tray. So we didn't think we were going to have a problem putting the stock battery tray from the Wave Runner in here, but we ran into was how to mount it down. We can't really glass in any inserts anywhere in any good area. So what we ended up doing is we took the box and we cut it right here along this back edge, making it a little bit shorter. And then we were able to tap a fitting and bolt it down right here. So it's got basically one bolt holding it, and it's so boxed in back there, it virtually has nowhere to go. And we just stepped the battery size down to a 5, basically, which is pretty small amount of cold cranking amps. If you're using a lithium battery, that wouldn't be a problem at all, like if you're going to do like freestyle, but we're just using a regular old AGM battery, which is actually working pretty good. And then we put a battery tender hookup to it, so that way we can keep the power supply coming. But yeah, as you can see, everything in here is real tight, and then as we fire it up, you can actually see that we have a pretty good amount of, the vibration on it is actually better than we thought. Doesn't vibrate any more than a typical jet ski. We were actually expecting quite a bit more because that one motor mount was off a little bit, but I think that's one of the benefits of using a Yamaha is the bolt holes are so big that you have a lot of leeway there with where you can set it up. So anyways, the next video we're going to go ahead and show you the finished product. We're going to go ahead and take some paint brushes now, and we're going to try to feather in some more of this paint. We wanted to keep the old paint as much as we humanly can, so the next part is we're going to go ahead and paint this thing, and then we're going to send it down to the water for a test drive. And then the other thing is, this is the old motor that came out of it. It looks like shit. This is how small the motor started out being. And then somewhere around here we have the X2 ride plate we cut up, and we're gonna go ahead and toss it on there too for a ride. All right, guys, it's test day. We're down here in beautiful Lake Havasu City, Arizona on the island. We're gonna go ahead and try out the 300SX now. Hey guys, we're back after a long day of testing. Overall, we're pretty happy with the finished product. It's got a lot of power. It handles really good, especially with all the weight right here from the, the larger motor. The pump hooks up pretty good. It's not terrible, but it's not quite what what we're looking for. So we're going to shim the impeller a little bit, get the clearance a little better, and then if that doesn't work out, we're going to try one of the 550, 750 pump conversions in this thing. And overall, a lot of fun. It handles exactly like my mod 550SX that I used to race. And in that respect, it's really fun. I think that, the motor, even though it's a 650, is kind of being underutilized. So once we get that pump hooking up right, it's going to be a bitch and ski. Anyways, shout out to my lovely wife for taking this video. And I hope you guys all enjoyed watching this. And feel free to shoot me any questions, comments, or concerns. See you later, guys.